everybody, welcome to What the Flick. We're back with episode 2, Chestnut of Westworld season 1. Alonso, Bibbs, Tim, and Amir, our producer, joining us today. He's always here. You just never see him because he's on that side of the camera. But today, he's on this side because he loves Westworld and he wants to talk about it.
Excited to be here.
Here we have the interesting thing of do androids dream of electric sheep? And it turns out, yes.
And scalping.
And scalping.
Well, yeah, you know, obviously the reverie idea seems to have quickly backfired in terms of, oh wait, they remember every time we killed them, which is a lot because, you know, that's what the tourists do and that's what these scenarios create, and it happens over and over and over again, and it's really not the kind of, you know, memory you want to have flooding back to your host robot. That's
nightmares. So like the guy said, they only have nightmares. They don't necessarily dream, but they have nightmares.
Well, you understand the idea of nightmares
in
case there's any sort of thing that didn't get erased that they can't explain, they'll be able to write it off as a nightmare. But they don't technically have them.
Right.
Yeah. But now, so of
have
course,
you had the weird nightmare where we wake up on the cold table and people are cutting us open? No. Yeah, I have too.
You know, it's like one of those dreams everyone has, like that dream where your teeth are falling out and it's really, really horrible.
Everyone's had that dream, yeah.
That's the reality. In reality, once we wake up from this horrible nightmare-scape that we call reality now, we're just having all of our teeth fall out all the time.
Yeah, what greater power than us is taking out all our teeth over and over again? That's really makes you think.
Yeah, it's Clint Howard as the dentist.
But no,
so he was the ice cream man.
So now Maeve wakes up on the table, and I'm assuming then that not everybody at Westworld got the deep and dreamless slumber memo, which is apparently supposed to, like, you know, shut them all down.
But she had that thing where she had, I guess it's in her programming to be reassuring, and she told one of the other robots that if you're ever having a nightmare, you can wake yourself up by doing this. So she tried it. Right. So she's able to overwrite her own programming now. She's able to wake herself up when they tell her to dream.
So do we think it's coincidental that Dolores had whispered that these violent delights have violent ends in her ear just before? Or you think that's like a code word?
I think that's how the virus spreads.
I was going to say, that is, I think, literally a virus in this case.
They were going to decommission her. They already, the guy like tapped it into his iPad thing that they were going to decommission her. But before that, the girl that was analyzing her, they increased her empathy. What was it?
First
they increased her
aggression, and then she went full Donald Trump on that one guy.
Yeah, so then that wasn't good. So then they doubled something else.
They doubled like her. Yeah, it was like her empathy circuit. It wasn't specifically that, but basically there was like another team that isn't as nuanced that was just like, I don't know, just like turn the air conditioning up, even though what you really needed to do was air out the apartment.
So I think another cool part that this shows is what a huge production Westworld is, like as a theme park. They have massive amount of employees working in different divisions that don't necessarily communicate with each other, but like they had the cleanup guys that go do surgery on these people and they don't know what to do if a robot wakes up.
And like the hose down room where they patch up holes and just disinfect everything.
So you got to assume there's thousands upon thousands of people working
James Marsden stacked like cordwood.
Okay. And James Marsden, they just threw out this like huge thing about James Marsden's character where like apparently he's Jack the Ripper.
What?
Danny Newton is talking to James Marsden, and she's like, yeah, well, at least when my girls go to bed with someone, they wake up alive.
Oh, I just thought that meant that he was like a gunfighter or something.
No, I thought she was saying he was a maniac.
No, he was
saying that's his thing. It's like he's a killer.
I thought
he was a killer. Not of women. I think just in general.
No, I thought he was just like a gunfighter. That was my takeaway. But I don't know.
Maybe creepy and stuff. So I thought maybe that was like we're supposed to like reinterpret his relationship with Evan Rachel Wood, that maybe he's supposed to not be a good guy after all. Because he does have a black hat, doesn't he?
He does have a black hat. Anything is possible. It's interesting that you were saying that we're getting to see the inner workings more and more, but even the park itself, like we don't really get an idea of how far it goes. Like even the guests don't seem to know. Like there's that conversation between Ben Barnes and Jimmy Simpson on the train as they're coming in, where it's like, you know, which I think also underscores what Ed Harris is doing, where he's trying to find the game within the game and the maze within the land, you know.
You know, more and more, especially with the second episode, we're seeing a lot of the Westworld TV series play like video game programming.
Yes, NPCs, and whatever.
Exactly, all the NPCs, and Ed Harris is trying to find an interesting like mini game. Basically, but I'm wondering, is this going to be like a huge thing that completely redefines Westworld, or is this like finding Pong in Mortal Kombat 2, where it's just this sort of thing that only like really hardcore gamers
it's either a minigame or
he's the payoff.
He's trying to find the actual code itself, or maybe whatever Anthony Hopkins has put in there that's deeper than everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he following a narrative or is he breaking a narrative?
That's my question. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
No, and I think obviously we're still only getting piecemeal. Like we finally seen that the train comes from somewhere, you know.
How cool was that whole intro?
Amazing.
Oh, that was amazing.
That setup, then he's
At
just
the
on
same
the train.
time, I have issues with how time and space are like unfolding themselves in
How
the
do you
show.
mean?
Just like it's kind of confusing sometimes when
You walk out of a room and onto a moving train.
onto a moving train, for instance,
I love
or
that. I thought that was so cool.
it's clear that like obviously when one of the robots do something wrong and then they cut away to the lights and the cameras and everything around them, then this must be at night the next day or something when the park is closed. But I'm still like trying to figure out the geography of the whole world and how it's working.
and
There's
are
even-
we on Earth? You know, that question. still
Are we
hasn't
even
been
on
answered.
Earth? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really hazy.
There's
Who the
even
hell
a
knows?
question right now as to whether all of the stuff that we're seeing is taking place at the same relative time.
Right.
Like whether Jimmy Simpson is in the park while all the other stuff in the park that we're
Exactly.
seeing is playing
Right.
out, and how far apart they
And
are.
how
if not.
when guests come, how long are they there? Are they there for a week? Are they there for a
That
day?
Somebody I was watching
I
with
really
asked,
don't
like, hey, what? Yeah, how does that work in terms
Yeah.
of? Are you paying for a week? Are you paying for?
I'm
you
gonna
know-
assume that it's a week thing.
At least you have to
'Cause
like,
you-
have
yeah.
some time to do stuff. But here's the other thing I'm actually surprised they haven't talked about yet. We talked about so they're spending a lot of money. I can only imagine how much.
This is like
40,000 a day.
40,000 for a day. Okay. No microtransactions.
Right.
There's no just like if
Do you pay
want, like,
for
the-
drinks? It didn't look like they were paying
Yeah,
for drinks.
but I'm
No.
just like
Well, it's like a
Exact-
cruise ship.
Yeah.
You know, you buy you have the pass and you're
Right.
good.
yeah, like if you want to have
here's your horse,
like
here's your hat, here's your gun.
Yeah.
Ben Barnes is having like a 4-way, like anything more than a 2-way, you have to like put in a couple $100 other bucks. Just swipe your credit card somewhere.
Yeah.
Like on my iPhone when I want to play more Angry Birds. Like I
Yeah.
gotta, no?
No.
All right.
I did appreciate that Ben Barnes his eclectic taste.
Yes.
shall we
No.
say.
I think that gave us a good little preview of maybe what society is even like in this time in the future.
Right.
The sexuality is a little bit more fluid from what it seemed.
Way more chill.
From what you see
because
from Ben Barnes.
With Ben Barnes and Jimmy Simpson, we're starting to see analogs of the protagonists of the original Westworld movie, which is more about the people in the park than it was about the robots.
Spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't seen the 1973 Westworld.
40-year-old movie.
Not like you didn't have time to catch up, people. Come on.
All right. In any case, but in that one, as in this one, there's this sort of male bro dynamic where one of them is very masculine,
Alpha.
very alpha, trying to get the other one to be more alpha, and yet, obviously sexual dynamics are a non-issue, which I think is rather positive. What I keep wondering though is I was watching them enter the park. Here's one guy who's like total badass in this fantasy setting, another guy who seems super polite, and we're kind of waiting for him to sort of take advantage of the park. Is this going to turn into Hostel 2, where it seems like the nice one is actually the one who's the real maniac, and he's actually going to be like super duper evil?
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Simpson actually played a character like that already in the TV pilot Virtuality, where he was like the virtual reality vacation host who went crazy and started attacking
I wouldn't
people.
be surprised because he's clearly being seduced by this non-real world. So I could see him being the guy that's going to end up killing actual humans.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Well, and also
because,
I think
because
we
of
talked,
the
we
feelings
talked,
that he develops.
We talked last week about the whole uncanny valley thing. Like, is there
Yeah.
a thing where guests get so sucked into it? I mean, Ed Harris talks about like he was virtually born here, that that he's been here for years. Like, is there a line that people cross where they lose sight of that they're even in a theme park at all, and like somebody has to kind of come in and
glad they-
walk them out?
I'm glad they acknowledged Ed Harris in this
Yes,
episode. Like,
that one
that guy, should we
snippet.
slow him down?
Yeah.
No, he gets whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they know who he is. They can see what he's up
Yeah.
to.
For
He's
a
not-
while, I thought he was kind of a Mr. Smith. Like they didn't even know he was there. He's
Yeah.
like some virus
the
that
code.
they
Right.
can't even.
That'd have been kind of
But
cool.
no, he's an actual person.
But there's this thing where like, and again in the original, the whole thing was if your gun is aimed at a real person, it doesn't fire. If it's aimed at a robot, it does fire. But people are killing each other with knives.
yeah.
Feels like that's the sort of thing where it's like, oh, that guy was on a
Right, and one of
you
the-
can't role play as an old prospector with a treasure map because someone will stab you.
terrible
man.
idea.
You should just stay in your
Terrible
lane.
And they're all
idea.
the robots bleed, so who's to even know?
Yeah. Did Odyssey at Red River sound like a good one to you? Did that sound like a good
Not
mini-
much.
Not at
Although,
all.
but my friend Gary pointed out that Red River, it sounds a lot like the Blood Arroyo, which is where the little girl tells him to go.
So
for the maze
there's
entry.
probably a Red River that does exist.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you on that. That's fine.
Interesting.
I saw, and I did a little bit of research, just seeing the map of the Westworld. It's enormous.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger than just Sweetwater there in the middle, and like even the other town that the Man in Black goes to is like right next to Sweetwater.
How cost effective is that, though? I wonder if seems like everyone's spending most of their time
In Sweetwater?
In Sweetwater,
Yeah.
the thing is freaking huge. Is it just waiting for Ed Harris to get there? Think about the upkeep
Yeah.
they have to do to get Clifton Collins Jr. to have him like hung like
That's
by
what
a
I'm
lynch mob
saying. It's such a
every
massive
day.
production.
Yeah.
And
That's
where
why
are-
only the top richest people can
And
go
where are
here.
all the humans sleeping? We haven't
Yeah,
gotten to that yet.
that's the other
either.
thing. Yeah.
I guess at the inn, which is probably bigger on the inside.
But then when
or
that
something.
happens, like they have to come and collect all the broken androids and everything.
Yep,
So
every night.
It's like how
There's-
sometimes
these are the things that, like,
7-Elevens
kind of
close for
are
like
bugging me
1
right now.
hour at 4 a.m. It's not technically 24
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
This is like don't look out your window because big people in hazmat suits are like dragging off.
replacing the Bort license plates.
No, I would think that they would have like those people that just go around Disneyland all day just sweeping stuff up. Like there's other robots in Western garb who go around like you know.
Right.
I see.
And maybe they're all dressed like the Undertaker or something, you know, not the wrestler,
That's
but an
on brand.
actual
That's
Undertaker.
on brand.
You know?
I like it.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't want to shatter that illusion. You know?
So we also found out the relationship between Jeffrey Wright and
yes.
the head of
Sid Sebebet Knudsen,
Theresa.
the Dutch
Yeah,
actress.
thank you.
Yes.
Teresa.
who you may recall from The Duke of Burgundy, which is amazing.
Oh, is that her? Oh, Okay.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Well, yes. At least we know where they live.
Yeah.
They've all got condos or something inside the thing.
fancy schmancy apartments.
Very fancy schmancy. And I, obviously that adds an undercurrent to all of their sort of prickly banter from before. But I don't know. We'll see where that leads us in terms of do they have to band together because of some other corporate shenanigans going on?
Yeah, it seems like now they're just trying to like spruce up the cast of people actually making Westworld and give them some subplots because it really didn't seem like it was like, oh, and they're having sex. Well, good for them. That was kind of my only real reaction to it.
Unless he's having sex with a host that he designed to look exactly like her.
Ooh, that would actually be pretty good.
Right?
Probably
I
not.
like
but
that.
I like that.
That's a quick way to get fired. If you make a robot just like your boss and have sex with him.
You don't want to have that meeting with HR.
What about that meeting Jeffrey Wright had with Evan Rachel Wood?
Yeah. And
Which-
she talked to him, did you do something bad?
Yeah, like we didn't like I didn't again. I wasn't sure if that was happening right now.
Yeah,
or
well,
it was in
and
the past,
he's
or-
erasing it and covering his track, so
But is he trying to get to the bottom of what he thinks is a little wonky, or is he himself orchestrating something wonky?
Is he the wonker?
Yeah, he could be wonking
Yeah.
the shit out of this place.
What? I don't know.
Even,
I don't know who's
even,
wonking.
even
questions.
Shannon Woodward is going off book by reintroducing Maeve
Yeah.
back into the general population when she was
Right.
told to. And
Yeah, but
and
she was
then
told
we
by
have-
underlings, though. I mean, it
Yeah,
was,
that's true.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if that one. Maybe that's the thing. What do you think Anthony Hopkins' character's name is?
Ford.
What do you think Ford's new
out in the
idea
desert?
is? Yeah, what do you think his new idea is?
I don't know.
It was like a black church in
yeah,
the ground,
yeah.
but then I also kind of
I
got
read
some
it as
oil vibes
Yeah.
to it, like an oil derrick.
That could be kind of neat.
But it didn't look like it because there was a cross at the top of it.
Yeah,
so-
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It evoked that, that's
Yeah.
for sure. But it was like buried. It was like there was a huge sandstorm or something. Like, oh, you have to like find the lost city.
was it like the
underneath
charred
thing.
remains of a church? Because it was just a sort of like kind of black grid.
Yeah, it looked dark
so I
and
wasn't
buried
sure.
and derelict. But I'm more concerned with, did he make that small child robot just to encounter him at the desert when he's out there thinking of new stuff?
Yeah,
Like-
if that small child robot is involved in the shooting and or fucking that goes on here, I
Right,
don't
so
want to know about
No,
it.
no one
That's
wants to
another
know
thing.
that.
Is like we
yeah.
haven't seen any kids before, and that makes sense in an
Well,
adult
we saw the
themed-
one, but he was a
guest.
tourist.
He was
a
tourist
guest.
kid,
He was
yeah.
a
We haven't
yeah.
seen a robot kid. You're right.
Because
Yeah.
if the guests can do whatever they want, can they really do
Yeah,
whatever they want?
yeah,
That's sort of
yeah.
fucked up.
Theoretically, they can, though, and that's the sort of thing that Westworld really could tackle. What I think is interesting is beyond that. You know, when we look at how science fiction has dealt with this kind of alternate fantasy reality, whatever, before, so many films in the last, or TV series in the last 20, 25 years have focused on a virtual reality. The idea that all these people are maybe hooked up to some sort of matrix or whatever. And I keep wondering if we're going to peel back and find out that, yeah, this robot thing is stupid. Like, why, they're all just going to take off their goggles at some point, and that's going to be the shtick.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does. Obviously, it's certainly not cost effective to have to create
Right.
all of these
Yeah.
functioning beings and stuff. But you know,
for a theme theme park.
Right,
quite a
but
big switch,
again,
though. They
we
showed us
think
the
the theme
brass
park
tacks.
is just is a dry run for something more sinister, and more far-reaching, but we don't know what yet.
I know. It better be really sinister and really far-reaching. Otherwise, it seems like a huge waste of resources.
I mean, that said, at $40,000 a day per person with 300 people in the park at the same time, that maybe covers their overhead.
Yeah.
The whole overhead, all of that stuff.
I don't
seems like
think
there's
so.
A lot that
Not for
goes on.
R&D, certainly.
Yeah.
But
They have a closet literally tailored to you with multiple outfits, and you have to pick one outfit
I
from all of
imagine
that.
they're probably using like the same 10 of those and then just replacing the clothes when everyone leaves. It's like, oh yeah, this closet's entirely for you, Jimmy Simpson. Oh yeah, this closet's entirely for you, Jimmy Smiths or whoever's going to show up on this show.
Because you're an A237-4. All right, bring him in. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But then again, with all this free labor from all these synths, maybe everything's a lot cheaper too.
Well, here's the thing. My first thought was like, oh, they're going to build a robot army. Or whatever. It's like, but if they're going to build a robot army, they wouldn't have to have personalities.
Right.
They wouldn't have to be this interactive and this genuine seeming. So there's clearly something even more awful,
Espionage.
Yeah,
that was
or like
one thought.
a very grand scale Stepford Wives or something.
Well,
I don't
and
know
again,
what.
if you think about space travel and the massive complexities and getting a whole bunch of human beings somewhere, we just send a bunch of robots. Human race is fine.
Right, but again, then you wouldn't give them personalities because then that way that you
But if
could,
you want the culture to survive, is my idea. That's the thought. I don't know. It might be a stupid thought. I just watched Screamer, so I got a bunch of ideas in my head.
Yeah, getting back to the whole theme of making these hosts and letting the guests do whatever they want, and then the hosts eventually remembering all the awful things that happen. It sort of takes for granted the idea that if given no consequence, we would all be terrible people. All we would do is rape and pillage and steal and kill. And
That's what Grand Theft Auto is all about.
Exactly. That's why you have to think about this like a video game too.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Simpson is here being polite and talking to old men and picking up
There's
cans.
always that guy that wants to role play when he plays his video game.
We're waiting for him to go bad. That's what we're waiting for.
That is true. Look, when I do play Grand Theft Auto, I actually obey the traffic laws.
Me too. I'm the same way.
Yeah, just because it bothers me when the cops don't pull you over for it and they pull you over for anything else. Like you hit one trash can. Oh, better get him! I ran 8 red lights.
Yeah.
You were right behind me, and you didn't care.
Yeah.
You're horrible cops.
Well, and I think Bibbs pointed out last week, the idea of science fiction is to sort of deal with deeper issues that are occurring in our present. And for the 70s Westworld, the idea was, oh, isn't this terrible that these robots we created could turn on us and kill us? And now the idea is more like, isn't it terrible that we want to create robots that we can kill and fuck?
It is terrible.
That's the thing. And what does that do to us when we think that we have license to act like Donald Trump?
Every single person is Caligula, deep down.
Yeah.
That's what it's really saying, and it's despicable.
I'd say
it should make you uncomfortable. I think it should make you uncomfortable.
I think in the context of Pusgazi, this is very relevant material.
Yeah,
Is that
for
an
sure.
actual thing?
That's what I've been hearing
Pussygate.
online. No, but Pusgazi is better though.
Pusgazi's pretty good. Pusgazi sounds like an album I'd listen to over and over and over
Trademark
again.
Jonathan
It'd be really
Lasecki. I think it's a good one.
That's a good one.
It does bring up those very issues. What's the dividing line that makes us not behave like animals?
Again, you get
consequence, I guess.
Yeah, you get an excuse and you're told it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine to say horrible things. Whatever. That's what society tells you. That's what your people in charge tell you. Then you do them, and it feels great. And then you're a monster. Done. Thanks, Westworld. Thanks, Westworld.
So, do we think Dolores has a real gun?
Real gun. Right.
With simunition, as they call it.
I don't know. That'd be cool, though. That'd be cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, there's a ton of guns. There's weird that one is buried and it's significant. So I assume it's something different.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a plot essential gun. Sorry, I'm just going back to the thing about the consequences of it. Just that whole sequence with Ed Harris, even watching him murder all those people. At first I was kind of like, oh my god, oh wait, but they're all robots.
Yeah.
Oh wait, but I'm still watching the slaughter of all these entities, robot or not.
Yeah, if it's real enough that you would want to be in Westworld, it's real enough that it should make you uncomfortable, that someone would want to do that in any context.
But he knows he has God mode. He cannot be killed. He'll never lose that
There's a difference if you're jumping on mushrooms and when you're you're just slaughtering people.
Well, no one else has bullets. That's his God mode.
There you go.
All right, so obviously a lot to chew on here, and it will continue as we move along. So we hope you'll join us for more Westworld next week.